So moving to the first item under reports, 2.1, Councillor's motion regarding proposed TransLink Marine Drive Corridor Beeline project. I'll turn it back over to our legislative clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick recap. Notice of the proposed motion was given at the February 25th, 2019 council meeting. At its March 4th, sorry, just a bit of feedback. At its March 4th, 2019 regular meeting, council received public input and passed a motion to close the public input opportunity regarding this item and to defer council's consideration of the item to the March 11th, 2019 regular meeting. As public input on this item is closed, council may consider this motion at tonight's meeting after it has been moved and seconded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so can I get a motion on the floor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the motion as written, I just moved the motion as written. Does anybody want me to read out the entire motion, or is that fine?
Nope.
Is everyone satisfied? Okay.
All right, and can I get a seconder for the motion?
Second the motion.
And I'd like to call on council to determine if, are there any amendments to the motion?
Madam Mayor, there are some friendly amendments to the motion, and I'll ask Mr. Panneton to put those on the screen.
And Madam Mayor, just for clarity, the friendly amendments are in red on the screen here.
Thank you.
So, again, do I need to read out those amendments? Okay.
No,
fine.
you can make a motion. You can just, as written.
Okay, so I think I should, for the benefit of the public. So among the preambulatory clauses, it has been added, and whereas the district's public consultation only recently completed on February 28th, and council has not yet seen the final results of the public consultation, and whereas given the current schedule for Beeline implementation, it is recognized that will not be possible in 2019 for TransLink to take the Beeline service past Park Royal Shopping Centre. Therefore, be it resolved to work with TransLink owners of Park Royal Shopping Centre, Squamish First Nation, to identify possible alternative Lyman's bus lay-by locations for a Beeline terminus option at Park Royal Shopping Centre, and adding, recognizing the district has no jurisdiction over Squamish Nation lands, including the south side of Park Royal Shopping Centre and lands under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. Further friendly amendments in item 2, small item substituting traffic priority, or substituting traffic improvement for traffic priority measures, and that's it, I guess.
All right, and so both the mover and the seconder accept or put forward that motion as amended.
I accepted it as a friendly amendment.
All right. So any further amendments before we move into debate on the main motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to Councillor Lambert's motion. And again, I'll similarly ask Mr. Panneton to put it on the screen. And again, here now we have, hopefully in a different color, there it is in blue, the further amendments to the amended motion by Councillor Lambert and Soprovich. And you'll see that the motion does two things, or the amendments I'm proposing do two things. State specifically that we direct staff to identify other potential options for Beeline service extending beyond Park Royal Shopping Centre that would A, avoid routing adjacent to schools, B, not require restricted access bus lanes in Ambleside or Dundas Drive business districts, as agreed by TransLink, C, minimize the loss of on-street parking, and D, minimize impacts to residential neighborhoods. There's an and, which is not substantive in the third paragraph, and then there's the now fifth paragraph, which would be amended to read, report back to council with their findings on the above and the public consultation results within 30 days, subject to an extension if needed to allow council to decide next steps and the appropriate public consultation. And I will just do, after a last minute conversation with Councillor Lambert, He's asked that the clause "subject to an extension if needed" in the last paragraph, Mr. Penitin, he's asked that we amend that to, comma, recognizing that this may only be an interim report at this time, comma, and that, so that's the motion I want to make, and I'll just describe what the difference is. I initially suggested within 30 days or an extension, recognizing that if staff run out of time to have the discussions to look into potential options, that we should take the amount of time that's necessary to take that, and so it may be more than 30 days. Of course, we're not wanting to prolong this. However, Councillor Lambert pointed out, he said, well, his view, and I think this is his view, is that we should have within 30 days at least an interim report on progress to update the community. And while it may take more than 30 days, I think we all accept that we should at least have some sort of interim report on 30 days as by way of update. Is that, am I characterizing that properly? Okay, well, that's my motion.
Those are your amendments?
Sorry, my proposed amendment.
And are there any, at this point?
It's going to be second first,
Oh, yes, sorry, second?
and then I'm going to speak to it.
I'll second that, but just to clarify, so on the last paragraph then, report back to council within 30 days, that means there would be a report available for us to read within 30 days. That doesn't mean that
It's the final
we have to
report.
be in a council meeting.
Right.
No, so it doesn't have to be our next council meeting. It could be later than that. Okay, so I will, in that case, second those two amendments.
All right, and before we move to debate on the amendments, are there any questions about the amendments? We've got Councillor Wong. Yeah, unless it's a clarifying question. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Cameron, could you please confirm my understanding of your amendments as I read them? So you're asking for additional reports to be made in addition to Councillor Lambert's report, all of which, both his report and your reports, will be submitted back to council in 30 days for our review before we decide next steps, including going out to community for consultation. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And
with the slight,
Right.
slight correction that it may be an interim report within 30 days, but the idea would be to, as soon thereafter, come out, if it can't be done within 30 days, as soon as possible thereafter. But we will, in any event, have an interim report within 30 days. That's the first thing I would say. And then just to expand slightly on your last point about, that would not come to council for decision on the option or the resolution at that time. If another option is identified, some form of option past Park Royal, it would also be the subject of public consultation at that time.
so theoretically, we will have all the information we will need at that point, correct?
Yeah.
And therefore, my last question, therefore, this amendment to the motion is not council deciding what's happening with the Beeline tonight. It's
No.
just asking for reports on possible options. Is that correct?
I think it's correct, and I would just offer the following reflection. I do think that this, my amendments, and I think Councillor Lambert's motion is intended to send some signals to the community about areas that we're going to focus on more than others going forward, or that at least that's the areas we want to explore before resolving this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wong. Are there any other questions before we move into debate on the amendments? Councillor Soprovich, your microphone is on. Do you want to turn that off?
It's off, I'm waiting for the debate.
Oh, okay, well, although on the amendments, just one sec. Do you have a question, Councillor Gambioli? Okay, so just to be clear on the process, once questions are finalized, the mover and seconder on the amendments will have the first right to speak, so you don't have to necessarily press your microphones. I'll be going to Councillor Cameron and Gambioli. But Councillor Gambioli, you have a question?
Yeah, just a clarification question. So I'm assuming then that the mover of the original motion does not accept these as friendly amendments, what's written in blue?
Well,
I'm asking the original mover, because these have to be, But if they're friendly amendments, then
These
it
aren't,
changes.
my understanding, these are regular amendments.
They're not friendly amendments.
Well,
Well, I guess we could put that to Councillor Lambert, because if he accepts them, then we don't have to debate them. We would debate them in the ordinary course as a full motion again.
well, I think it's worthwhile informing the public the process that we got to here, and we spent a little time this afternoon just reviewing that. And
Councillor Lambert, do you want to just direct your answer to the question? I think that when it comes to your time to speak, you may
Okay,
give
but
that background.
It has to do with process, that there's my original motion, and originally the amendment that was proposed as an amendment to my motion. Myself and Councillor Soprovich did not accept that as a friendly amendment. And subsequently, Councillor Cameron has taken that amendment with some modifications and put it forward as an amendment to the original motion.
So it's not a friendly amendment to you?
I'm explaining to the people out there
Sorry,
the process and
All
where we
right.
are. Yeah.
that's clear. We're back to debate on now the amendments to the original motion with some friendly amendments. All right, so we'll go to Councillor Cameron first as the mover on the amendment.
Okay, so just briefly, we've all heard on council, and I have personally heard many eloquent and thoughtful submissions on this matter over the past 3 months, and we've all, it goes without saying, we've all been listening to what we've heard, and I think that there's some common themes that have emerged. There's certainly very serious concerns in the community about impacts to business, about worsening congestion, about any routing that's near an elementary school. At the same time, there's also a desire for traffic improvements. There's a commitment to the environment. There's a desire to stimulate the business area, and there's an openness to new ideas and a love of the community. So, we all have experienced and we acknowledge the emotions on this issue, and the fact is this has been a rather difficult process. There's no denying that. And I feel like the public, I feel like I recognize that the public wants us to work together to the extent possible on this. And this is my amendments that I'm proposing, which I sort of referred to a couple of weeks ago at the council meeting, are intended to try to find a middle ground with Councillors Lambert and Soprovich, and still explore alternatives. And so there's 3 things that I'm trying to achieve by this these amendments. One is the original motion simply on its face directs more study and about the Park Royal terminus and as other transit improvements. It doesn't, as Councillor Wong alluded to, it doesn't actually make a decision or direct a decision. But despite that, there's many in the community that are interpreting the original motion as a final decision to stop the B-line at Park Royal. And so this amendment I'm proposing so that we have clarity in the community about what we are and are not deciding, and how we're going to move forward. So clarity is the first thing. Secondly, consultation. These amendments I'm bringing recognize that the original motion was brought before the public consultation was closed, and before that we received a full report on the public consultation process. Obviously, we have some ideas where much of the community is, but we don't have the results of the online survey. We don't have the results of the telephone survey. We don't have summaries from the stakeholder meetings that some of us didn't attend. So I think if you ask people to spend their time and energy giving you feedback, then it behooves council to consider all of that carefully before they make a decision. And so I'm bringing these amendments to preserve the integrity of the process and give respect to those views. And the third thing is compromise, and perhaps that's the number one objective I have with these amendments. I mean, this debate on the B-line has become polarized, and it's quite unfortunate, because I do think, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of common ground that we share. And I'm hoping through these amendments, we can chart a path forward that addresses many of the major concerns that have been raised by the public about the B-line, such as routing near schools, such as the impact of the bus priority lanes, such as loss of street parking, for example, but also chart a path forward that promises the benefits that improved transportation would bring. You know, and I think that it's safe to say that we haven't really heard anybody in the community clamoring to have the B-line near a school. We haven't heard people saying, well, they wouldn't accept a B-line if it didn't have bus priority lanes. So I don't think I'm jumping the public consultation to say, let's try to find something that addresses these concerns at this point. And thirdly, if we can come up with a proposal or a routing that meets the characteristics in paragraph 2 of the amendment, I think we have the possibility for a win-win. We can get the businesses can enjoy retaining their parking and get the benefit of increased transit service. Schools don't have to worry about B-lines going near them, and the public can get better transit and not have the fear of worsening congestion on Marine Drive. So, you know, we can integrate ourselves into the regional transportation, the rapid transportation network, without necessarily suffering the costs that we were facing. So I'm making these amendments in the spirit of clarity, of consultation, of compromise, and I'm hoping, my fervent hope, and perhaps it's naive, but my fervent hope is that we can actually agree to these amendments and move forward as a council unanimously. And with that, I'll listen to what my fellow council members have to say.
Councillor Gambioli, would you like to speak to the motion as the seconder?
So, thank you. Well, I have a lot I could say, but it could be a long night, so I will try to keep it succinct. So I'll say, first of all, that I agree with everything Councillor Cameron has said. I'd like to start by thanking everybody for their feedback. We've had a lot of feedback, probably more than I've ever seen. I would like to thank staff, because our staff have been busy out doing consultations and compiling results and working very, very hard on our behalf, and it has not been easy. And thirdly, I would like to thank Jordan Back and Bowen Ma for adding a little bit of levity in the form of song to this debate recently. I wish I were that good a singer, but I've enjoyed that recent little diddly. So, in general, we on council have been elected to judge the facts and make decisions which are in the best interests of the entire community and for the future of the community. And decisions like this are much, much more complicated than just adding up all the yeses and the nos. We need to be more strategic than that, we need to be more intelligent than that, and we need to combine our existing building blocks of policy with the facts and with staff expertise and with public feedback to make a decision. And then sometimes it involves a lot of courage. So we have a lot of policy in place. We have our OCP, we have our Community Energy and Emissions Plan, we have our Strategic Transportation Plan, we have our Economic Development Plan, and we have the INSTEP Plan, all of which have had public consultation and all of which support the concept of the B-line. So, in my opinion, we need to use those as the building blocks for decisions like this, and we can't shortcut the process. We can't shortcut the process. And the original motion, in my opinion, was put in place to shortcut that process. So I cannot support the original motion without these amendments. For me, particularly, is the last section with the agreement to finish the public consultation results and compile them so that we can see them. As I said, we have thousands of responses, and staff are very, very busy. The initial public reaction to this proposal was opposition to a number of the parts, but we have also now, in the 3 weeks since this motion was written, many, many hundreds of emails supporting the entire project. So,
Sorry, can I get order? Please be respectful of the speakers.
so I say that for the North Van resident who works here, and to the senior who has just had her driver's license revoked, to the business owner who is now too intimidated to publicly make his feelings known, we must respect the integrity of the consultation process that we have agreed to, and we have to wait to see the results and the analysis. To do otherwise would be irresponsible of each of us. Staff should be allowed to have as long as they need to complete the compilation and analysis of the feedback, and to do it right and to not rush it. There is now no rush. I will accept, therefore, the last part of this motion, although I think 30 days is too short to have a full,
Can I get order, please?
to have the results fully analyzed and compiled for us. But I will accept that, recognizing, as we said, that we may need an extension, or that would only be an interim report at this time. So I'll just sort of add that the original motion was, in my opinion, misinterpreted by the media as a motion to stop the beeline at Park Royal. It was not, I believe, in my interpretation, a motion to do that. But so just to be clear, this amendment makes it very clear that staff are going to be asked to identify other options for a beeline extending beyond Park Royal within the framework of those 4 points. So I will support this motion with that very clear amendment.
Thank you. And Councillor Soprovich is next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I too have received an immense amount of reading. I will tell you that tomorrow I can delete a lot of the messages, which is filling my phone so far that I don't have any space left. In my view, I have only one obligation, and that is to the taxpayers of West Vancouver. In consideration of the beeline service extending beyond Park Royal, without a restricted bus lane, why didn't TransLink propose that in the first place? I want to comment. You can go online through Google to our West Vancouver Blue Bus. It states it's a great way to get around where you're going. Whether you travel to the ferry, Lions Bay, downtown Vancouver, Cap University, or to UBC. It lists all the buses and where they go. It gives time schedules. And do you know that the Blue Bus began in 1912, is the oldest continuous operating municipal system in North America? Think about that. Now, the buses are part of the TransLink network, but continue to be owned and operated by the District of North Vancouver under a contract to link TransLink. There are 12 routes and 64 fleet. But here's one that really grabbed me. To the president of Local 111 of Coast Mountain Drivers said, and I quote, it makes no sense for West Vancouver to have its own bus service, while the rest of the lower mainland uses another operator. It's sort of a mess. All of us should be integrated. Having West Vancouver with their own little entity out there doesn't work with integration of TransLink. Well, I say to all of you that a facility that we've had going the longest in North America that has provided quality service to this point in time suddenly should be discarded out because we want to foster a new TransLink position? I think not. And so my interpretation of the motion, so that we would try and get a win-win here, I feel a little bit sketchy on the fact that we introduce the B-line back. It says, well, we're not going to put it by schools, we won't go through neighborhoods, and we certainly will have a minimum of loss of parking. Well, that's something that has to be looked at. What is minimum? 10, 12? So, it's double-edged sword here, and I'm wanting to be part of a win-win here, and I've looked at all this. The traffic improvements are important for the future, but folks, when you look at this, I know what you're thinking. Well, if they introduce the B-line, they'll come back in again, and it says here, excluding restricted access bus lanes. So I'm assuming through all this, with both this motion and Peter Lambert's motion, Councillor Lambert's motion, that in fact the transit line will be terminated at Park Royal. And from there, we make adjustments along the way through staff's recommendations, Madam Mayor, and hopefully we can come to a better situation in the future and get a win-win. But keep in mind, folks, the nerve to want to say this blue bus system we had all these years should just float away. I find that just incredible.
Thank you. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Soprovich, I had no idea you were so eloquent. You were like a sleeping giant.
And I'm 80.
Yes, and happy birthday, by the way. Happy belated birthday. So like Councillor Soprovich, I wanted to reiterate that as an elected councillor, I represent all of the constituents of West Vancouver, not just those who voted for me. So the interests of the entire community, whether you are on this side or the other side of any issue, that is my interest. So when I look at any proposal, transit, housing, whatever the case may be, I have to look at all proposals for its merits. Is it good from all perspectives, not just one? It needs to be a good proposal inherently. And so those are the things I weigh unemotionally, quite objectively, to determine where I stand on the issue. So many of you will know that I sat on the police board for 6 years. So certainly public safety is one of those lenses I will view a proposal through. So what it'll do to our community. Also with respect to traffic, what will that do to our community? But also at the same time, keeping in mind that as one of the younger members of this council, what will it mean for the future of our community? I will be very, very old when some of the proposals that our council in the next 3.5 years will put forward are implemented. So I just wanted to remind some of my colleagues that the report from the consultation will be back within 30 days of the end of that process, which was Feb 28th, which means it'll be about the end of March. This being March 11th, another 30 days out, that means about 2 weeks after that report comes, the report proposed by Councillor Lambert and Councillor Cameron will be before us for consideration. So in terms of whether those reports scuttle the consultation process, I don't think so, because it'll be coming afterwards. So I look forward to seeing all those reports and weighing them on their merits and making sure that they are customizable or custom solutions for West Vancouver. They're solutions that are made for West Vancouver. Many of you will also have heard me during the campaign trail saying that this isn't just my community. It isn't just your community. This is our community. And so same thing with transit. This needs to be our transit solution. It's not just one party's and not another party's. It has to be something that we all embrace and that works for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wong. Councillor Thompson?
Well, this motion is bringing out some eloquence all around. It's great to see. I'll be more simple. I do want to commend Councillor Lambert and Sopovich for bringing this motion forward, because my understanding, the intention was to gather information. And it's been suggested that this is a misstep, this motion, but I actually think the misstep was not doing this before we went out to public consultation. And now that if this motion is successful, I look forward to getting the information, re-engaging with stakeholders, and moving forward to get more feedback and make a decision with real information. And having said that, the feedback has been tremendous. It has not been yes or no, and it's been intelligent and fulsome, and I'm so grateful to get to know my community this way and understand you better. I think any of us here are here to represent our community first and foremost. I don't disregard the need to get teachers and workers into our community. That has merit. But if that's outweighing the benefit that it brings to our community, that's what we need to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on the amendment? Councillor Lambert?
Well, last but not least, I'm certainly prepared to move this amendment along to advance the original motion, which stands essentially intact. And I believe it was Councillor Sopovich noted a primary feature of this amendment is the prohibition of the restricted access bus lanes in Ambleside and Dunderave. I amended that to say as agreed by TransLink, because of course there isn't any point in undertaking any studies if TransLink continues to insist that they need exclusive bus lanes to move their beeline service. But we'll see how that plays out. So I'm happy to move this along and expedite the process, concentrate on looking at the options for terminating the service at Park Royal, and looking at ways and means to make the best of the work that has been done already from Park Royal to Dunderave in terms of improving general traffic and local bus service.
Thank you. I wanted to make some remarks as well. Did you want to?
I just wanted to,
Councillor, sorry, do we have a couple more speakers before I go? Councillor Wong
I think it's me.
and Councillor Cameron?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Lambert, can you clarify, are you saying that Councillor Cameron's amendments are friendly amendments then, based on the statements you just made?
We can just vote on it. I don't think it
No.
matters.
Vote on it,
Yeah.
and then the entire package is accepted.
So
that
is he
not
saying
correct?
they're friendly? Sorry, I'm
I think at this
unclear.
stage in the process, we are actually in debate of the amendment, so the time has passed for friendly amendments. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in debate now, and we're going to vote on this.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to correct something that Councillor Sopovich said. Let's just talk about Blue Bus for a second. Well before my time on council, West Vancouver effectively relinquished most control over Blue Bus, okay? TransLink sets the levies, determines the service levels. We don't do any of that. TransLink owns the buses and controls the rules. They set the fares, we can't set our own fares. They set all the terms. Blue Bus drivers themselves are district employees. But that doesn't give us particularly any power because they're subject to pattern bargaining. They have a collective agreement. It's very similar to that enjoyed by the Coast Mountain Bus Company. We bill TransLink for the amount we spend on Blue Bus, and they remit our bills. Of course, as a municipality, we pay more than we get back, but it's a fee-for-service arrangement. So there is no discussion in this about ending Blue Bus. While it may have sort of populist emotive power to start wrapping yourself in the Blue Bus flag, that ship or that bus has driven away a long time before I was on council, likely during Councillor Soprovich's time. Blue Bus is a symbol in West Vancouver, but we don't actually have a great deal of control over it. I do love the system. I love the courtesy that our drivers display, and I'm not looking, and I don't think any of us are looking, nor is TransLink looking to acquire Blue Bus. But let's just focus here on facts rather than emotive arguments that don't have any basis in that.
Okay. Councillor Soprovich?
Why don't you go on the site and read what it says about the Blue Bus system in West Vancouver? There's lots of opportunity to get some fact. Regardless if there's been a contract or whether in fact there's been a shift by the union, I know that TransLink said, well, we got a works yard in North Vancouver, but it's going to be too small for the blue articulating bus. So probably the suggestion in the future, we won't buy more land to increase our buses on Lloyd Avenue. We'll take them over to Burnaby so they could start out at 5:30 in the morning to go to their positions. It is all organized to take away the direct result of a quality service that we've had for years. And that is my opinion. You read this stuff yourself if you want to do it. So my question is on the options for a beeline service extending beyond Park Royal. It states that it's excluding restricted bus lanes. So Councillor Cameron is in fact any service that, for an articulating bus coming into West Vancouver in the future will not be given a closed lane. And secondly, where in all of this would there be a turnaround position? Is that something that staff will work on in the years to come? Because right now there's nothing available, so how would we look at a bus system, a beeline system coming back in when there's nothing available to turn around?
Councillor Soprovich, the motion says what it says. You can read it the same as all of us. It's quite clear. I'm very concerned about what you're saying about TransLink and the aspersions that you're drawing. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And I would like Ms. Lemus, don't believe me, I would like Ms. Lemus to clarify this notion, this quite frankly, insulting notion that somehow TransLink is not letting us expand the depot or anything like that. We have an interest in the depot in North Vancouver, do we not, Ms. Lemus?
Through you, Mayor Booth, to council. No, we do not. So this is it. Okay. So for clarity, our rolling stock and our facilities are owned by TransLink.
Right.
And so to your point, we can influence, or we try to provide input on demands within our community, but we have we are a subcontractor to TransLink, full stop. We are a Blue Bus only in name. We are funded entirely by TransLink, and they determine our service hours, as you've stated. And there is no, as far as I'm aware, there is absolutely no underlying issue here between our Blue Bus service, trying to undermine that, and the Beeline. The Beeline was a completely separate initiative that was brought forward to the Mayor's Council and was determined as a North Shore initiative. It was not in any way meant to impact our Blue Bus service. It was meant, if anything, to potentially augment our local service.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, sorry, I think there was a bit of a miscommunication between the two of you. The actual depot, the land, is owned by the District of West Vancouver. Is that correct? No? Okay. All right. Clarify. Thank you. All right, so any other further comments? All right, so I would like to conclude the debate. First of all, I just want to commend council for their work and collaboration in coming together to put forward the motions and the amendments. It's been challenging. I know this is a unique situation, and it has been a difficult one. So whatever the outcome, I think that we've arrived at this place in a very collaborative and respectful way. So I appreciate council. I do want to also thank the community and commend the community for their engagement. I know, again, that this has been a very complex, challenging, and at times divisive issue for the community. But good decisions aren't always easy decisions, and it is a process, and we've all moved along in this process. For the most part, I think very respectfully, and I've seen firsthand, speaking to many members of the public, I've seen a lot of thought going into this item, and everyone makes decisions at different ways, absorbs information in different ways, and asks questions and considers things in different ways. So we have to respect that, and we have 42,000 people that are all weighing in, and actually I do agree with Councillor Gambioli. I think this has been one of the most evocative as far as engagement that I've seen in my 13 years in public office. So this is a potential to work with TransLink, this motion, to bring the B-Line past Park Royal to our town center with the provisos that have been set out in paragraph 2. I can't disagree with actually anything that council has said thus far. I agree with it all, and especially around Councillor Cameron's points, and I won't repeat them, around clarity, honoring the consultation process, and looking to find a compromise, common ground, and something that we can all say yes to, rather than creating winners and losers. People have been very thoughtful and passionate on both sides of this issue, and I really am hoping the community can come together. I think that this motion, one of the outcomes, which I think is highly beneficial at this time, is that the Irwin Park community, the school, can sleep soundly tonight, because it's very clear that we will avoid routing adjacent to schools. So I want to highlight that. The businesses can take comfort in no less of parking. The residents can take comfort in no dedicated lanes or minimizing them. So I think there. The motion says minimize the loss of on-street parking, minimize impacts to residential neighborhoods, not require any restricted access bus lane in Ambleside or Dunderray, and avoid routing adjacent to schools. Those are clear. We've heard those loud and clear. And so I think that going forward, those are the ground rules. And we'll be looking to hear from staff to ultimately make a decision on this. But at least we've clarified where we're going. TransLink is open to these discussions. So this is not a waste of time. And so I don't have anything else to add to that. And I think we should call the question.
We have a poll vote,
Sure. So, Mr. Pannerton, do you want to just explain how that's going to work?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. If we could just proceed, maybe from Councillor Lambert around the horseshoe, and each councillor can say yay or nay on the question, so essentially voting in favor or against, but one at a time, and then I'll record in the minutes how each councillor voted.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with you, Councillor Lambert.
Okay, and this is in relation to the amendment?
That's right.
correct?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So, yay.
Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Councillor Saprovich?
Nay.
All right. So those amendments now pass with Councillor Saprovich opposed. Now we go to the main motion, including the amendments, for a vote.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And we can just vote, we could do a poll vote, or we can do a show of hands. I can use in the ordinary course.
Madam Mayor, does Councillor Lambert get a chance to speak to his motion?
Oh, yes, thank you. Do you want to speak to your main motion
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
as amended?
Yes. You know, as the mover of this motion, I'm glad to have the opportunity to put a little perspective on the issues at play here. Although I believe everything that has been said regarding pro versus anti-beeline, it's really not about beeline or no beeline. The presentations last Monday, and they were heartfelt and passionate, as my fellow councillors have noted, focused instead on how we can move about our community, how we can use transit effectively, and protect the character of our seaside villages of Ambleside and Dunderave in the balance. So I've learned a lot over the past 3 months and continue to learn about what we value in our community and how we might be able to enhance livability through better access to where we want to go. Better access to where we want to go. That's really my takeaway from the beeline debate, and it inspires me to pursue ways to keep the conversation going on all the issues related to mobility in West Vancouver. And I'm encouraged by the new alliances forming within our community between resident and business groups. And I'm reminded by many about how absolutely vital our very own Blue Bus system is to our community. So as I said last week, and as a way of helping to reinforce these new alliances, I've been advocating for a new citizen-led Transportation Mobility Advisory Committee. We talked a little bit about that earlier today, and there may be different ways that that might manifest itself. And I have a draft notice of motion circulating among my council colleagues for comment, and we'll be discussing that over the next couple of weeks. So I think that's all I have to say at this point. I'm pleased that we're going to be able to move ahead with looking at the options at Park Royal and ways to improve transit through Ambleside and Dunderave. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Saprovich.
Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I've been in business in West Vancouver for 50-odd years or less, both in Park Royal and Ambleside, and back to Park Royal, back to Ambleside, back to Park Royal, and back to Ambleside. So I get a good history of the business community here and have drawn some strong conclusions that every day that I drive through Ambleside, it is a beehive of activity. And that is because of the hard-pressing, dedicated business people that grind it out every day here to make ends meet for themselves and provide service to the community of West Vancouver. We are a unique seaside community. We have a passion that is different than everywhere else in the Lower Mainland. I don't think we should be bullied in any way, shape, or form by TransLink or anybody else to alter our position of what we want that is the best for West Vancouver. Having said that, to the young people from Capilano, you know, I have a 19-year-old son, and I'm 80. He's smart as a whip, and so are all of you. I'll be long gone, and you're going to be here working in this community and moving on. So I understand your position, and I accept it all for the future, and you should stand up for your rights and speak your piece all the time. Don't ever forget that. Madam Mayor, the position that I have always felt, and I stated this when Mayor Smith was mayor, that I always try and keep an open mind, but at a clip that came out recently, back in 2018, I said, not only to the public at that time, but also to the owners of Park Royal, that the most obvious location for a terminus is at Park Royal. I never varied from that. I had to listen to and thank everybody in the Lower Mainland. One I got a kick out was somebody from Kamloops. I appreciate what goes on in Kamloops, but and I try not to make fun, because everybody's entitled to their input, ladies and gentlemen, and as well as this council to their input. I don't ever want to stop that. But I have, I guess, a vested interest in this community. When I leave here, I want it to be that special place that you all think it is, and we know it is. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wong?
Your Worship, I just wanted to thank Councillor Lambert for putting forward this original motion. I think the detail that he's asking for was sorely lacking in the process, making our decision or future decision incredibly difficult. So thank you, Councillor Lambert. Thank you, Councillor Soprovich, for putting this forward. Certainly, as my colleagues will know, I come from a background in public relations, and so, it's disappointing that this entire process with respect to the consultation, the way the proposal was rolled out the way it was. Certainly not the way I would have done it had I been in charge, but as I was elected partway through, I will work with what I'm given and make the best decision possible, of course. So I look forward to the results coming from the reports, and so that we can get this process going and bring it to a close. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just conclude again. Oh, sorry, you didn't have your button on.
Sorry.
Councillor Cameron?
So I don't want to actually say more about the particular Beeline proposal right now. I want to take this opportunity to say a few words about some bigger topics. Due process. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Seneca coined the phrase auditor et altera pars, and engaging in this dialogue in a better way.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Thank you very much. Thank you for those reminders. Before I move on to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I respect Councillor Cameron's place in qualifying himself. This is tough being in the public eye, and quite often it gets amplified and some hard hits are taken. But I'd have to disagree in saying this is a one-sided argument. We have heard from everybody and all sides, not just no and pro. We've heard from how do we find a solution that works for West Vancouver. The engagements that I've been in, people aren't just coming here saying, go away. They're saying, how can we make this work? And unfortunately, we haven't been able to provide those options for them. So I think this important, your input matters. It's what's important. And, we can't do our job if you're not doing yours. We all want improved transit and progressive solutions. There's no doubt in my mind that anybody sitting in this room tonight isn't seeking that. Our job is to find what works for West Vancouver.
Thank you. And Councillor Wong? On my list, I've got Wong.
Oh, or both?
on.
Or both on.
Together? A duet?
Ladies split first, please.
All right, Councillor Gambioli?
Well, okay, I wasn't going to say anything else, but now I can't resist. So I agree with everything that Councillor Cameron has just said. I've been super disappointed over the past few weeks with a lot of the feedback. you know, the reality is that this, I don't believe, as some people up here do, that this notice of motion was ever necessary. If this notice of motion had never been made, none of us would be here tonight. Well, we would be here tonight, but very few people would be here tonight listening. No one would have shown up last week either. No one would have shown up the week before, because our staff would have been busy compiling the results. Everything would be calm. We would be waiting for the results, and then sometime, hopefully in April, we would be having a substantive debate about the options. But instead, this premature motion has come forward. It has riled up everybody. It has caused significant anxiety within council, with the public, in the media. It has used up an enormous amount of resources, your tax dollars, to deal with this issue over the past few weeks, just in terms of the amount of staff time we have been using up. So I don't appreciate the motion, but as I said before, I'm willing to vote for it with the amendments. And as Councillor Cameron said, our job here is vision, our job is leadership, our job is practical long-term planning for the community. And some of you may have read this book already. I'm in the middle of reading this fantastic book, which was published by the Historical Society. And you know, we have to keep in mind that these issues come up from time to time. Big issues come up. In this book, it talks about essentially the whole development process of West Vancouver, from incorporation in 1912 up to quite recently. And they give examples. The author gives examples of, for example, the apartment zoning. All of the apartment zones were created in 1958. And I just can't even imagine how much public pushback there must have been on that. And now we have thousands and thousands of residents, some of whom may be in the audience tonight, who live in those apartment zones. And it's a very important part of our community. When Caulfield Mall was about to be developed, it was so acrimonious that more than a dozen residents went to Supreme Court of BC to have it stopped. And now, perhaps some people in the audience and some of us shop at Caulfield Mall all the time. So it must have been a huge and difficult and courageous decision to make in those days as well. There are many other examples. The foot of Taylor Way, West Royal Towers. I remember the huge public meetings in what is now Kamiq, with hundreds and hundreds of people on several nights not wanting that development, and yet there are now hundreds of households which are happily housed on that location. So those are some examples of difficult decisions that council have made in the past, and we have to think of the future of the community in all these decisions. So whatever happens at the end of this, it must be a decision for the whole community, for the future of the community, in my opinion. And this has been a big speed bump in the process of this beeline discussion, which really was never necessary.
All right, Councillor Soprovich?
Madam Mayor.
Or, all right, Mr. Panneton, is something going on with the mics? Because I see Councillor Soprovich, but I don't see Councillor Wong.
Madam Mayor, both Councillor Gambioli and Wong's mics turned on at the same time, which removed them from the speaker's queue. So Councillor Wong is still next. His mic is live, and then Councillor
Thank you.
Soprovich is next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought we were going to do a duet, perhaps. But further to Councillor Thompson's point, I certainly echo those points, but I guess I wanted to also point out that perhaps hindsight is always 20/20. Perhaps the learning from this process is that the West Vancouver, whoever represents West Vancouver at the TransLink table, really needs to push back on TransLink when they come forward with a proposal that just clearly doesn't work from the straight off the bat. You know, the fact that we have to have this motion that says avoid routing around schools or minimize loss of on-street parking, that should have been, you know, if I was the mayor, I would say, you know what, sorry, Translink, come back when you've got a better proposal. We want better transit, but those things don't work. And so I think the learning really is that we need to be much more forthright with what we want and be direct and really work hard with TransLink and go to them with ideas and proposals rather than waiting for them to come to us with hopefully a proposal that works for us, but to work in partnership with them. Perhaps something that isn't something that we've done in the past, but perhaps that is something we need to do in the present and the future to make sure that the transit options that West Vancouver needs, and some would say deserve, are the right ones. And so I just wanted to point that out and encourage our representatives at that table to do so and to stand up for West Vancouver.
Councillor Soprovich?
I got it, good. Councillor Gambioli, I've always tried to keep an open mind, and when Councillor Lambert put that motion to me, and we talked it out, and I really took a serious look at it, and I thought it was a very good proposal. So let's look at a scenario. This rather may be a little silly to you all, but so any municipality, they said, we're putting in a pipe, and we're filling it full of water, and it's going to go uphill. The water's going to run uphill. Oh, but keep an open mind. How much input would I have to have in relationship to know that that water is never going to run uphill? My head would explode before I got enough information about how to make a decision. So when it came to Councillor Lambert's position, and we at the same time extended the outreach, incidentally, we were not to receive anything as of last Monday the 4th in relationship to anybody in the public concern, yet I've received I don't know how many emails for and against since that time, so we're still receiving public input on this. I understand we're now suddenly very righteous, and my only hope is that everybody's listening, and TransLink and the staff will all listen to the fact that we want to see a terminus at Parkwell, work very, very hard to improve the bus system in West Vancouver, and the door is open a little bit to a lot of options. And, Councillor Cameron, we may not have full control over our blue bus system, but I'll tell you something. When it first started and TransLink came here, and George Poole was standing over there 20-odd years ago, and he says, we're going to tax your assessment for future costs. And starting a bus system. Every lower mainland municipality pointed to West Vancouver and says, we want a system just like West Vancouver. That's true fact. So I'm asking that we don't forget the blue bus system, find ways and moves to add more if we do, and I would suggest, Ms. Lemus, that if we look for more blue buses, that we'd have to do it on our own through the taxpayers of West Vancouver, if TransLink wouldn't help. And why wouldn't TransLink help us? After all that's gone through, they're going to have a viable system to a major shopping center. And I hope from there that they can be encouraged to send a couple of beelines over to Vancouver and to UBC and to other places that we don't get now. Our own blue bus system goes over there. We have a blue bus that goes to UBC and to downtown, and 7 days a week. If you want to go to an event, you can go to 25th and get on a bus. It'll take you down to Cami Street for events every day of the week. So, and TransLink and Fairness have put in community shuttles coming this way. And we, in turn, have sent shuttles up the hill when we found all those big buses were not full in the British properties. So, folks, it's a little bit of everything going on both sides. I don't find an ounce of criticism from me going to any councillor on here who makes a decision one way or the other, and I expect the same back to me. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cameron?
Well, unfortunately, well, I feel the need to respond to a couple of comments. No, look, no, I am entitled to respond.
Well,
We need.
Yeah, okay, Cameron, and then we've got to kind of move on. We can't keep on going back and forth.
We need to go run through the history of how this worked out. Well, if
Sure. Now we know how that's done, starting with Councillor Lambert.
Yay?
Yay.
yay,
Yay.
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 Unanimous. Thank you very much, council, and thank you to the community. All right,